Corporation. I expect we'll have one more member join us in a minute. We'll wait for him before we take any action. But for now, if you'll please stand for the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you. We thank you for today. We thank you for Terrell, Texas. We thank you for giving us the freedoms that we have living here in the United States of America. Lord, bless each and every one of us today. I asked also that you give us a clarity of mind and thought to ensure that we make the best decision for this city and our citizens as we serve. Lord, protect each and every one that works in the capacity of servants, our police officers, our firefighters, our public servants, Lord. They are needed for our safety, and we are appreciative of their work and their service to our community and to our world. In your name we pray, Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen.
You'll join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, we'll hear any remarks from visitors that may not already be on the agenda. Do we have any scheduled? Thank you. I'll ask our board to review the minutes from our April 12th meeting, and once you've had a moment to do so, I'll entertain a motion to approve. We're out of 6. Yeah, we're good.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Hillary. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephanie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This time I'll call on Raylan for our financial report.
Good morning, Paddock Board. In your packet is your most recent financial report, which will cover any expenses that were incurred over the last month. A few notes: when you look at your Anderson Griffith partnership, we have reimbursed the first portion of his invoices. You will notice that all of your frames are up in the Anderson, and glass will be installed next week. So that's very, very exciting. Next one, you'll have a presentation today about your park capital improvements. So we should start seeing some money come out of that line item, which is good. And bless you, downtown landscape project, our last payment to Foreman Fiber, which was the company who is doing our planter covers, those will be delivered within the next 10 days. So we are rounding that up. So other than that, we have the contracts that were approved by City Council for your parking lot on Tuesday. I have an 11 o'clock conference call today to set their construction schedule. So we'll get those done this summer also.
Thank you. Questions for Raylan?
I might be jumping the gun here, Raylan, but previewing the packet yesterday, it looks like we have several requests, and I'm looking at that remaining budget number. So do we, is it possible that some of those might be funded in the next budget year?
Yes, so I was going to open up today's presentations. You've got two rather large projects, and really the goal today was to let you have an overview of those projects, kind of look at what some of those expenses are going to be, get an idea of what their construction timeline is, because this may be something, if there's portions of those projects that you want to fund, we could look at putting that into your budget for next year. So I wanted them to be able to introduce the project as a whole, and then that way y'all can make some decisions throughout the budget process.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, let's discuss the summer meeting schedule.
So a few changes and a couple of highlights for May. May was busy. We kicked off a downtown live music and food truck event, and I have to say, with 2 weeks' notice, our downtown showed out. We had such a great time at the Lyric on May the 2nd. Terrell Coffee Shop is hosting that on May the 16th, and then we'll be back to the Lyric on the first Tuesday in June. We also had someone sponsor the Southwestern Christian College Choir on Sunday the 5th.
Would someone mind opening the door for this gentleman?
So just a little bit of information of what was going on. Taco Festival was huge. I think that crowd has doubled over the past couple of years, and so there's a lot of really fun activities. It was a good month, has been a good month, and we're only halfway through. In June, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. The joint meeting with EDC, the school district, et cetera, on June the 10th has been canceled. We had originally proposed a Paddock Park Board joint meeting on the 13th. This is something that I know we've talked about the last couple of summers that I've been here. I want to make sure that this is something that y'all want to pursue. I don't think that we've ever gotten y'all together since I've been here, so I'm just making sure that this is a workshop that y'all want, or would you just rather hear from Patty and Glenn and the staff as a presentation to Paddock?
Thoughts from the board about a joint meeting?
I have a preference. I do think it needs to be a separate meeting so that it doesn't get into our Friday morning time.
I think the timing is good because then we're going to meet to discuss our capital plan. And so
Right,
to know what their
yeah.
priorities are is helpful. Personally, I wouldn't be able to attend on the 13th, but it doesn't mean the meeting shouldn't happen.
And we can look at different dates. We've tried it a couple of times and it hasn't happened, so I just want to make sure that that's still, and so we can maybe, I'll get with Glenn and we'll propose a couple of dates, and I'll send that out in an email, and we'll see if we can't get something
Perfect.
down.
Preferably before the 14th.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so moving to the 14th, what I propose to do is, today you have a marathon, but for the next couple of months, really kind of let y'all hone in on your strategic plan and capital budget. And then also, the biggest thing is we need a new board photo. So it's time to move past the COVID photo that was from 2020. And so I have scheduled us for a photograph at 9:30 on the 14th. So now we know there'll be an hour meeting on the 14th, and then we'll go and have your picture taken downtown and also at a park. Same thing for July, just the standard July meeting. Still really pushing for that strategic plan update and budget, and then August and September. So it'll be fast and furious summer.
Thank you. And Braylon's already sent invites out for those meetings. Any feedback? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to new business. The first item is to discuss and consider site enhancement matching grant program application for BH Dave's Appliance located at 218 Westmore. For that, I'll call on Raylan.
So I'm going to call on the infamous Tony Abels to come up. We do have an application for a new sign at BH Dave's, and so you have your applicant here this morning.
Welcome, Tony.
What can I do? We have an existing lighting sign out there now, and it's just got a little age on it. It's deteriorated, and we're just looking for some help in replacing it. And it's going to be upgraded. It would be changed over to LED lighting, which would be more efficient and a little better light. But other than that, we just need a little help.
Very good.
In your packet, you have the quotes. He received 2 bids for that sign, and it's recommended the lower cost of the $3,600, and you also have pictures of that sign in your packet.
Correct.
Request is for 100% funding.
I'm sorry.
The request is for 100% funding.
That would be nice.
Any thoughts from the board? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve. Thank you, Matt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you both. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you for investing in your building, making this happen. It's going to look great.
I do appreciate your help. Thank you, every one of you.
Our pleasure. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and consider downtown revitalization matching grant program application for BMT Center located at 804 South Rockwall, and maybe 301 South Rockwall. And for that, I'll call on Raylan or Ms. Thomas.
So Ms. Thomas is here to present this. This was kind of back to my original comments of you've got a couple of pretty big proposed construction going on in the next few months, and so this just giving them an opportunity to give you an overview of the project. And I've got the proposed floor plan to hand out, but I'm going to let her come brag about her building.
Welcome, Devonna.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm Devonna Thomas, and this is Arthur Wilson, my project manager. So I do own the property at 301 South Rockwall Avenue. It's been in my family for years, and back in 2019, I started the process of wanting to turn it into a youth center for, the city of Terrell and for surrounding areas. And I did do a walkthrough with Mike back then, and he was like, well, Devonna, you got to think bigger than just that. And so that's what I did, and we've come up with a new proposal for the building and how we would utilize it. It would be, upstairs would be dedicated to the youth center, as well as now we would be putting in a cafe, and then also have 3 small business suites. That way I can help other entrepreneurs who maybe can't afford big leases somewhere. They could lease from me and be right there. I mean, the location's wonderful. It's a lot of traffic, and I'm super excited about it. I could talk about it all day, but I know you have other people to talk to as well.
We do want to hear your vision for how the community center would be used, so keep
Okay,
going.
perfect. So I am working with Terrell ISD, Dr. Warnock, and I'm trying to get on Dr. Seamster's calendar to bring the youth to the cafe, to let it be a student-led cafe. I'm working with them to do a dual credit program with Southwestern Christian College. That way they could run a business course there. So the students could come, and as well as Terrell ISD students. When I went to Terrell High School, I did dual credit with Southwestern Christian College. They haven't had that program in years. And so if I can help them revitalize that, it'll help them with their enrollment, with their recruitment. So I'm trying to work that angle with them as well. The youth center would be after school program starting at 4:30 to 8. Just journal classes or different things that they could do that they wouldn't be doing in school. Our typical school things. I'm also in talks with Becca over at the library to utilize the upstairs space as an expansion for the library until they get their new building built. I know they don't have a lot of space over at the Literacy Depot or their the original library as well. So if they could utilize it during the day to run some of their programs to give them a little bit more space to open up. And as far as the cafe would be a way that we could generate income to help fund our youth programs upstairs.
Thank you. Art, can you tell us about the building itself and what all will be changing?
My background is high-density development, and so we've come up with a comprehensive plan to utilize the existing building and as much of the existing structure as possible. You see there some renderings that my architectural team has come up with as kind of a proposed use of how the building can be utilized with the community center and the cafe being, operated by the students and whatnot. There's a seating and a lounge type area that will be shared with the community center and the cafe, which will allow it to be a conducive environment for the students to actually be running it and operating it and understanding the background of being entrepreneurs. And the course I believe that they're trying to develop is a step-by-step course development where the individuals that are running the cafe are not only the managers, but the dishwashers and the front of the house staff, the back of the house staff. So as they go through the program, they can truly understand how to run a business from soup to nuts. And the cafe offers an environment for any entrepreneurial student or anyone going into the workforce to really understand the background and the nuances of actually running a business. So it makes sense to us based off of what her vision is, how she can enhance the experience of the city of Terrell, and take her family building and turn it into something that's very useful for the community.
Thank you. Questions for Devonna and Art?
And either one of you can answer this question. What is the parking situation? Is there on-street parking? Is there a lot attached?
Yeah, there's a large lot that's a part of the actual property. So my team will come up with a comprehensive parking plan based off of what we think the traffic will be for the cafe and the other retail or office suites that will be utilized as far as the operations of the businesses. But then also, I believe the lot is big enough to accommodate what we need to do as far as accommodating parking for the community center as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. How soon are you planning or wanting to start this project?
We're hoping to kind of be through the, well, one, that depends on funding, obviously. But the plan is to get through the architectural and engineering portion of developing the plans to get passed through the city of Terrell. I'm working with the business official, Mr. Mays. He's kind of comprehensively helping me through the process to make sure it's short as possible. And so hopefully by the beginning of summer or midsummer, we'll be able to be in a position to start construction based off of our ability to get funding to revitalize the building.
So my question's centered around like a pro forma to show where the money will come from to sustain the building. And hopefully there'll be a nonprofit formed if there hasn't been already, maybe there already is, so that it wouldn't incur property taxes, but utilities and, I don't know if the kids are getting paid, like where's all that money coming from?
So with the property taxes and all of that, we have a family trust that's formed we have a lot of property, so it takes care of everything that has to do with paying property taxes. That comes out of the trust. And then as far as the utility bills and, got to keep the lights on. So money will become from leasing out the small business suites, as well as whatever proceeds come from the cafe.
Have y'all gotten so far as to do like a projection about what the lease rate would bring in, what the expenses would be?
Yeah, we've actually started a business plan with projections. That's
Okay.
something that we definitely can present to the board once it's finalized. But yeah, it'll have 5-year projections as far as the
Perfect.
amount of income that will be generated from the cafe, from the potential revenue streams from the individual, either retail or office suites. And then how, and hopefully that can be subsidized by the work credit that the students will receive from the curriculum class that they're going through,
Very good.
to kind of reduce the amount of overhead when it comes to employees and whatnot. But primarily, it would be to come up with a marketing plan that is part of the business plan in order to get the citizens of Terrell to frequent the cafe. And all of that will be projected out over a 5-year period.
So where my head is at right now is this is a very exciting project for our community. It's a very needed project for our community. I support the vision. Got a lot of work still to do. You've done a lot of work already. We all know the longer we wait, the more these numbers are going to go up. So I don't want us to drag our feet. However, I think as a board who deals with, citizens' money, tax income, that we need to feel really good about the sustainability of the project. And so the pro forma is absolutely something I'd want to lay my eyes on, and even to see it stressed, if you only lease one of those spaces, or if you can't get market rents beginning, like where's your break-even point, all of that information would be very helpful to have. In the meantime, my personal opinion, but I'd like to hear from the board, is for someone that's building a nonprofit community center I feel like permitting is something that we should help with, to help them, make sure that the city is going to be able to approve whatever these plans are. I don't feel like that should have to come out of the pocket of a nonprofit that's building a community center. And then I think helping cast the vision throughout the community and get the whole community behind this. This is the second time I've heard about this, so there's a little bit of buzz happening in the community, which is good. But I think, there are obviously opportunities for grant funding, even just private funding from local businesses that believe in your vision in this community. And so, I don't know that this is a project that will be 100% Paddock funded, because I think we need more skin in the game from the community. And y'all are in the perfect position to raise that money once you cast that vision. I think it's great to give a relatively small group of kids an opportunity to take a course in entrepreneurship and see how hard it is to start a business. But it's a big building, and so I'd be curious what the upstairs space would be used for, and more programs for the community center, and who's going to run those programs. And let's just feel really good about taking that next step before we commit to the funding. I'm confident y'all can get us there. But since this is the first time we're really getting to look at it, I think it's a great first step. If it helps y'all, if you feel like your next step is permitting, then we can talk about paying for that. If you're not quite there, then maybe we shouldn't allocate the funds just yet. So what are your thoughts on your next step?
Well, like I'd mentioned before, coming up with a comprehensive business plan to address, the operations of the actual businesses themselves, and then maybe getting funding for the design aspect, which is, the architecture and the engineering. It is an older building, so we have some foundation things that we have to address, whether or not to keep the entire structure or rebuild a portion of it, as we were talking with the city officials yesterday or Tuesday about. It's just that portion, that small portion, possibly being funded.
Okay.
In order for us to get to the permit process. And then once we get to the permit process, getting those permits pushed through and paid for and the whole 9 yards. And then that'll give us an idea of what we can drill down on, what the actual budget is going to be. Because we will have as-builts done. And the as-builts will tell us what we can utilize that's already existing, and then what we have to either redo or add on, or to make it more conducive to the idea or the vision that we have as far as the renderings are concerned.
So what portion of the $39,000 that says plans, permits, and project management, what portion of that is plans?
That's about 15 grand.
Okay.
It's right around the number, depending on what the city of Terrell requires as far as maybe asbestos being, I know there needs to be, an evaluation whether or not there's asbestos there before we start opening up walls and things of that nature. And whatever else the city officials tell us we have to do, whether it's, a green belt report or whatever the case may be, all those numbers I haven't received yet, so I can't drill down as far as exactly what the budget is. But I know just off of past experience, for the architecture, engineering, and then whatever other necessities that need to be done as far as getting it to the permitting process.
Okay.
That's right around what the numbers should be.
I definitely want to be consistent. Raylan, I know we have paid for the actual abatement of asbestos before. Have we paid for the plans before, like the study, I guess, that they have to do, or the testing?
That and then there's,
The environmental survey you have paid.
Okay, good deal.
And that's about $2,500.
Okay.
I'm super excited about this project. I'm familiar with these young ladies that's homegrown. I've been in the need to find office space. I had to keep extending my time with the city and working with the city to a property I had our office space in. Probably 6 months, 3 months at least, because I couldn't find office space, and I wanted to stay in this area. So it's exciting to hear that you're going to have some retail spaces. I recall as a younger adult, or that Houston Smith started in this office, I think with your grandfather.
He
So
did.
this is pretty remarkable that you want to carry on that legacy and continue. So I'm excited to see what this project brings. I support it. There are some things we need to continue to work on to ensure that we're ready to move forward with this, but I do think it will be an asset to that community. I spend a lot of time in that block and a couple blocks away from there, so the renderings look nice. I like what you've proposed. It's needed for our youth. I like the partnership with the schools, our local schools. That's kind of our vision, even, you know, that's my vision even as a council member, is to build strong partnerships here in the city. So kudos to you, and I do support what I see.
Can I ask, what does BMT stand for?
Oh, Bismarck and Mary Thomas.
Okay, that's what I assumed, but I didn't want to assume. And then, what was my other question? I had another question. It's gone away. So I guess it wasn't that important.
I should have written it down. Go ahead, please.
If I can add about the economic projections. She kind of, Ms. Thomas kind of brought it to my attention about her utilizing, you know, being a potential tenant. Part of our job would be to kind of secure those leases.
Perfect.
Prior to us even getting started with the construction, to find out where the potential individuals that would rent out. There's only 3 spaces. We do a market rate analysis to figure out what we could actually charge, and then maybe prorate it over time. But that would also give us like true numbers as far as what we would be able to charge for mid and long-term leases.
Now you're speaking my language. I like that idea. So the amount that would help you get started today for plans, permits, and maybe the environmental study is how much, approximately?
Approximately like 15,000.
Okay.
Does this include, I don't see anything under slab or foundation. Does this include any kind of engineering study, structural engineering study?
That's part of the architectural engineer, because we would bring in our engineer to actually participate in the as-built process of finding out exactly what's there, and then coming up with a comprehensive structural plan to go along with the architectural plan in order to make sure that our contractors, you know, bring the building up to code, or make sure that the codes are met based off the city. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the things that the fire marshal pointed out was there possibly needing a sprinkler system based off the square footage of the building. I don't necessarily think we're going to need that based off the square footage, but also the engineer would give us an idea of whether or not, you know, certain things would have to be in place in order to.
I think you need to prepare your heart for that sprinkler system.
Yeah, that was kind of the consistency.
Yeah.
On Tuesday.
Okay. I want you guys going into this eyes wide open. You
Yeah,
obviously have experience to bring. We have a resident expert in the room, Mr. Snap. Is there anything else, you know, plans, permitting, kind of what he's talked about, that the city would need to see to actually give the permits, costs that they would need to incur up front?
One of the challenges is going to be probably parking, square footage. I know is under 6,000 for your text here, but is that for both floors?
Yeah, if we do the addition, it's 5,041 square footage that's for both floors.
Okay.
If we don't, probably take off 700 square feet. So it's still, even with us adding, rebuilding that small little portion that's on the side there, that was an addition, kind of ripping that off, demolishing that and then rebuilding it, and then adding a second still at 5,000.
So, you're bumping the ceiling there, but, fire suppression is one thing, parking is gonna be the next.
Yeah.
And then the permitting in, I don't know right offhand with the zoning, but depending on what you want to use that building for, your specific use of that, will it apply in that zoning? So we don't have to go to the P and Z and do a zone change or anything of that nature. So just make sure that the specific use that you want to use it for, your implied use, fits everything. That would be the other thing. So you jump those three hurdles, you're good.
Not all of your ideas have passed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Initially, that's what we did to make sure that the commercial use for what we're proposing already meet the guidelines.
Let me clarify. You said 15,000. That will include enough money to do those environmental studies, because I think that's very important.
Yeah,
With the planning, I
unless
thought
there's
you-
something that I don't know of, I know there has to be an abatement done, an environmental, I'm not exactly sure if that's necessary or not, but I will definitely find that out. But the 15,000 is a kind of a blanket number, but I don't see us over exceeding that,
Even with the plans and everything?
plans and everything.
Okay, I was just referring to your response earlier. I think you said about 15 for that, but I just want to make sure that would be sufficient. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Someone like to present a motion?
Make a motion to approve the 15,000 for the planning, plans, environmental work that's associated with this project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move forward with this next step. Keep us posted all along the way, and we're excited about it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we are to discuss and consider downtown revitalization matching grant program application for Southland Station located at 504 East Moore. And for this, I'll call on Raylan.
So just a brief introduction. This is the Southland Building, which is downtown. I know we're all excited about this building also, so I have Taylor Lindsay here and his team to kind of give you an overview and his vision of the building. Same song, different verse, just an overall picture, and we're going to have to phase this and take steps along the way.
Good morning, y'all.
Morning.
I just know a couple of y'all, but it's nice to see y'all's names and see y'all's faces. This has been a little bit of time coming. So we've owned this building for about 5 years now. I think 5 years. And we were hoping to have started this process 4 years back. But in the interim of like waiting, we've kind of had a little bit of time for things to percolate down and for different ideas to kind of come to the surface. And the building, obviously, I'm sure everybody has seen it before. Probably only a couple of y'all have seen the inside of it. But it's a big space. It's about 25,000 square feet. And that's over 3 floors, as you can probably see in the documentation. 10,000 square foot basement, 10,000 square foot main floor, and then 5,000 square foot mezzanine. And originally, we had thought, it could be like an event space, or we could do coffee shops or a restaurant. I know before we actually bought the building, people were talking about a microbrewery. We actually spoke with a microbrewery years back, and COVID hit and tanked that. But I'm actually very grateful for all those interruptions, because I feel like what we've ventured with now is something that hits a lot of different areas of my heart for the city of Terrell, and what I think would actually benefit Terrell as well. Me and my wife actually, she couldn't be here today, but we have yearned for Terrell to have a place where creativity, where craftsmanship, and where personality could be displayed. And this is Chris. He's my architect, and longtime friend, advocate for our family, and he's been a part of some really cool projects, so he's going to be coming in. He's helped do the pro forma for this as well. But we also share this, but we've done a lot of traveling, seen a lot of different cities that have a lot of personality, and a lot of personality that's like easily displayed. And one thing that I value anytime I travel is when I come into a place and I see a building, I see a space, even if it's not a building, if it's just a place in the city where musicians, artists, craftsmen, the people of the city can actually be seen and display their work. And so as we went through a whole lot of different iterations of what this building could house, what it could contain, what would be a benefit for the city, we came to desiring for there to be like a flex creative space where there could be tenants and vendors. So a farmer's market, and in our documentation right now, we have it functioning at just two weekends a month right now, showcasing about 40 vendors. And then we have space for about 6 to 8 permanent tenants as well in that space. Within this, we actually, realized that we need to have some signed, commitments and different, see what kind of interest was out there. So me and my wife have done a little bit of work, and yeah, we have those are 40 signed commitments of people who are interested in using the space. And then several of those are permanent tenants as well. And within those, we want to maintain and make sure that there's that homegrown, handcrafted, something that's actually produced from within that family. That's a value that I have, knowing, like I've lived in Kaufman County my entire life, son of Kaufman County, and have rarely seen spaces within Kaufman County that really do what we're talking about here. And so I'm also a musician, and Mr. Oakley, I know you're a musician as well, and I've longed for there to be a place where there could also just be live music consistently. And so it hits a whole bunch of things. It makes me super excited to think that this could happen, and yeah, so we're just bringing in the documentation and just show you what we think it can be. And this is our conservative estimations right now.
So maybe just elaborate a little bit on Southland Station. What we're really seeing this being is just an incubator for local businesses in this city. The vision, the plan for this would be that you've got startup businesses, you have businesses that are already mature that actually get to be housed in this space. What we're looking at, like just Taylor communicated, is there's literally 40 LOIs that we have from businesses, small businesses that want to come either 2 to 3 weeks, weekends per month. And then we have anywhere from 5 to 7 actual businesses that want to be permanently housed in the space. So it'd be at 7 days a week or 6 days a week tenants. And the ability for that is that we're bringing this networking partnership where these local businesses are getting to come, they're getting to engage and network with each other. They eventually get to build their business, build their clientele, build their just awareness. Potentially, they take the next step of growing to their own brick and mortar store that's here in this city, and then open the door for the next small business that's wanting to start up. So we really see this as it's an incubator for a lot of businesses to be able to actually come and grow. And I think that's what makes this building really unique, is that it's not just one business. It literally is it's a platform for multiple businesses to be able to come and grow. And then there's multiple people within those businesses, multiple jobs within those businesses, which is super exciting. And we started like, what does this mean for like the local citizens? There's a lot of local commerce and a community that begins to evolve between the business vendors that are working together. There's a lot of sharing of and anybody that's in an entrepreneurial standpoint, that one day is one and the next day is a completely different work. What's super helpful is that you almost create this micro community within all of these vendors, because this is a struggle. If you try to start your own business, it's a deal. And so being able to have some like-minded people that are all in creating this network, so it's like not everybody is going to be down at once, you know. And so we're trying to create and foster this environment that will help and promote people getting through those little valleys, get to the mountaintops as they grow their own businesses and network and clientele. So that's something that's really exciting about how we're seeing the inner pieces of this. For the city, we're excited about like what this does for the city. It's like we're literally there's 40 businesses coming every weekend for 2 to 3 weekends per month that are coming down here, which is super exciting. And part of it is to be able to grow and build and connect with other businesses that are down here local as well and just get some movement. What we like to look at is like when there's a current, there's a river current, there's a lot of movement that's happening, and there's a lot of evolving in things that can go when you have a river current versus if it was just stagnant. So that's what's really exciting about that, and really I'll let Taylor jump in on like where we're at right now.
Yeah, I actually missed one of my points I was going to make earlier too, but I wanted to touch on like the history of the building. So, you know, if y'all don't know, the building was made by, it was constructed by Mayfield Wholesale Grocers, and it was like a depot for produce for the first span of its life. And then obviously Southland Athletic Manufacturing was manufacturing in our city that has since not been around for quite a few years. But we also really like this proposition because it kind of brings both of those things back together again, where there could be local produce and local manufacturing in the same building. And as of right now, yeah, since we purchased the building, we've kind of bought the building. Actually, before we purchased the building, we went ahead and got an environmental test done, knew that there was asbestos in the building. So from the time of purchase, we ended up replacing the roof. We ended up redoing all the masonry, we re-tuck pointed. I ran a masonry company for several years, and so we re-tuck pointed all the masonry on the inside. We had a local engineer come out as well as the architect that the city of Terrell uses. And they advised on that and advised on a little extra framing, so we've done that. It's been kind of like just a preservation, wanting to make sure we have the building intact and that the building is maintained. We actually had a significant flood, that Snowmageddon that happened quite a few years ago, and because of that flood, there was no way to do water mitigation without abating the building. So we went ahead and abated the building as well at that time. So yeah, and the building does have a fire sprinkler system, and we've been maintaining that, and got like a 7-year test on that as well. So that's in good condition. Yeah, it's been trying to make sure that it's ready for the next phase and ready to be set up for whatever improvements can be and should be done to it. Yeah, I think that's it.
So what you're seeing actually is some plans. This is showing just a part of the layout. So you're seeing in yellow would be the tenant booths. This is what would happen on the 2 or 3 weekends per month. What you're seeing in the peach color is the permanent tenant, and this particular floor is the main floor. There is a basement and then a second floor loft space as well that shows that's the second floor that's there. Here is one of the things that we're trying to also introduce is that ability for just seating and lingering once people hang out. There's an option to be able to bring food trucks and during these events, and also bring more people coming in, and so they can actually hang out, not just one run through and then we got to go out. One of the unique things that we haven't communicated yet about this is that what we're trying to go for is going to be a covered space, a conditioned space, and that is something that's very unique about farmers markets across many cities. You have some sort of level of security, not for the people coming, but you also have for the vendors. And that's something that I think most of these vendors are actually pretty excited about, where they're willing to be able to pay a little bit more money because they know that it doesn't matter if it's rain or shine, everything that's inside this building, it's covered and conditioned. And so once you're inside this building, you're not worrying about wind or hail or rain or 110-degree sun hitting your head. And so that's something that's really actually unique about this. And I've been to several cities all around the country, and there's not a whole lot of these actually. And what's kind of cool is that a small town of Terrell in Texas actually has this ability to have a conditioned space building. So that's something that's also pretty exciting about this. The other part with the basement, we have two permanent spots. There is a lot of space down there from an egress standpoint. With fire suppression, we have to make a second egress out the backside, which is the south side of the building. So that there's a lot of work back there that actually sets up the potential for, a potential speakeasy. There's options there. And so this thing can grow and evolve to many, many different levels. Currently, that is not something that we're looking to do yet. I think there's a lot going on, as you can already see with this building. And so being able to take the right steps, get this river moving, and then we can, go from there.
Let me pause you there. What is phase one?
Phase one is everything that you're looking at here. Like, we would actually renovate the whole building. We would end up having white shell boxes for the tenants. Some of these permit tenants will actually bring some of their individual funding per whatever they're bringing. So for example, like one of them's a coffee shop, one of them's a clothing store, one of them is potential bubble tea, I think. And so like some of those necessities of what they need to actually be able to operate their own business, those will be basically a contract that we'll work with them. We'll provide them a white shell box, or what we call a warm shell box. But then from that point, they would then be supplying some additional drawings of what they're needing, and then they would also be creating some funding to add to their space.
But the building itself will have electrical, plumbing,
Yes.
windows,
Yes.
okay,
All the things that are very expensive, yes.
restrooms?
Have restrooms, yeah. And so you can actually, I don't know if there's ability to go to that first level floor. We have like in the blue is actually restrooms that are all there. There's actually additional restrooms that we've added. What you don't also see is there probably will be single gang restrooms that would be added to some of the permanent spaces. So for the employees that are owning in that permanent spot, they have their own restroom as well. And notice that this setup with the green is basically just your pathway walkway, but the yellow that you're seeing, that is on the weekend only. And so there's a whole space there that is completely open during the week. And so we haven't discussed in detail yet what happens, but there's a lot of ability to be able to create additional things that can happen during the week.
Events.
Meeting events, you name it.
And we don't have any of that in our, those projections in our
Those are not
performa.
in
Our performa is just off of tenant and vendor leases. But yeah, there is a huge amount of space and time that other things can be hosted there as well.
A couple of things that I wanted to touch base on is just some of the meetings that we've had with the city. We love a good challenge, and he knew the first time he came in that this was going to be a challenge. There's some zoning work that has to be done because this is the first time something like this has been proposed. So in working with the fire marshal, we're making sure that we have those uses identified, defined, so that we can make some recommendations on our zoning ordinance to help kind of cover this concept. Because we want to make sure that it's strict enough, but also expandable enough. And so we're kind of working through that right now with our fire marshal. So that was one of the key things, is making sure from day one we got the building official and the fire marshal involved. I think that there's a lot of unknown potential even. I mean, you look at this building and the idea that you have and the partnerships that could be there. And so We've taken it, he's been very good and cautious and slow, which has been nice. So I think, your question about the phasing or what are the first steps, he has done a wonderful job of, like he said, just the building preservation. If you ever have an opportunity to go in there, they have really done some amazing things to the structure. And so that was one of the keys in getting Gentry and Blake in there, was just to make sure that the building itself was ready for some ideas to come to life. So we do, in talking through all of this, he has communicated very well with the city, and we do know that we have some zoning and building things, hurdles to go through, but he's working through the process. So.
We know how much y'all love parking. So do we feel good about parking?
So that was my other note. I'm sorry. So the city of Terrell does hold a parking agreement with TxDOT for use underneath the Highway 34 bridge. And so Steve Rogers, before he exited, he handed me that blessed file. And so it is in my office. And so we will be able to calculate that land, because the parking agreement does belong to the city. So we would be able to access that space.
Are these guys going to have to pave the parking? No. Okay. Other questions?
I just want to start by saying, what I'm going to call your vision board photos that you've provided are very exciting. But kind of talk to me about, obviously on the weekends when you've got it open and you've got vendors and you've got it full, great. But talk to me about the money aspect of it on your Tuesday morning when you're heating and cooling this huge warehouse. What are your tenant agreements looking like? Are you going to be able to cover those costs for keeping open those extended hours?
Great question. So part of the extensive budget on the electrical is actually to make those individual tenant spaces. So for example, when at this current phase, when this thing is up and running, nothing's happening in the space in the middle. That's all controlled by one unit, and then each individual tenant will have their own bank. Where when I say bank, that's actually an actual electrical panel, etc. And so how they get charged for their utilities would be individually based per permanent tenant location. So yes, otherwise, yeah, we would be really rocking through some serious utilities. And so when this comes to a point where it's like, hey, okay, we start having events and stuff, we will then start looking at it from a standpoint of, all right, how many events do we need to actually make sure that this is actually conducive to being able to host this and actually create that profit piece. So at this point, yeah, we're able to utilize this space where we can, we're really doing very little to condition it. And then the permanent spaces that are there on a regular basis, those are all controlled individually. Does that answer?
Yes, and I think that's very smart. I know other buildings we've had in the city that have had this type of space, like that overhead has just eaten their lunch. So I think it's worth the additional upfront investment to be able to cap that.
Yeah.
So if somebody was supposed to have like a wedding reception or something here, they would still bring like an outside caterer in?
Yeah.
And
part of that, we'd let them partner with caterers. Depending on some of the permanent tenants that are in there, there might be something where like the wedding, she's the boss usually, and so it's like if she's like, hey, I really love this coffee company that's in here, they'd be able to, yeah, absolutely, you guys can create so part of this is like, hey, look, we've got some friends that come in with hosting this space, whether it's coffee, whether it's bubble tea, whether it's a clothing piece. There's an element there where there's flexibility that they can partner with it, and yes, outside catering is definitely.
And just to let you know, I'm excited about this too as well, because my mother used to run a sewing machine in that building for Southland.
We probably still have her sewing machine in there.
There's literally, I think the first time I went in, there was probably like 30 singer sewing machines. It was a pretty cool site.
I like your vision. That's good. Look like you've taken a lot of time to think about it and go through the process to get here. So I can appreciate that, doing the work to get here.
What does phase 2 look like, out of curiosity?
Phase 2? So, glad you asked, because we're like, we'll keep it and see what happens. But, okay, so phase 2, so if you look at the white square that's over there next to the big building, currently that's a single-story building. That easily can move into where we put a full retail on the base level. We potentially build a couple levels on top of it. It turns into actual living units, so we get a bit of a mixed-use component that's there. There's also options, we're not saying it, but there's also options to then do rooftop development. There's rooftop development for the big building as well. And even take an Airstream and plop it on the roof, creating a fun outdoor rooftop venue that Airstream hosts food and whatnot. So there's a lot of pieces that come to this that goes there. And then obviously further development into the basement of Speakeasy, et cetera. So yes, I think there's a lot of layers of growing, and I think part of it is just to walk through this and see the engagement of people and what's coming in downtown. And for us, we feel like this could be a really great bookend to the kind of this downtown business district, even though we're right now zoned as light industrial.
I'm not reading the project cost breakdown correctly, because at the bottom line, I mean, there's a 2,500 on-site cost, 3,500 general conditions, building shell 268,000.
That's the wrong phone.
Thank you. I'm like, where does this equal 1.8 million? Okay. I guess we don't have, do we have a project cost breakdown?
44,
Thank
43,
you.
44. 45.
Ah, got it.
And while she's like, so I see you say 6 to 8 month construction timeline, but I'm assuming that means 6 to 8 months after funding is,
After funding.
yeah.
Permitting.
Drawings, yeah, there's a lot that's there.
So realistically, what kind of timeline are we looking at?
Probably 12 months, yeah. And so, I mean, yes, the beauty is, so I'm also the owner of this construction company, so for me, it's like, I'm gonna push a little bit harder, just because I like this guy, and he's got, I love their vision, and I really wanna be able to stow back into what this is. So, I have a little bit more flex on the speed of making this happen, just because of what we're looking at. And so, yeah, this project of this size, there's a lot of red tape that we start off at the beginning, and that's, I mean, obviously, if this thing moves forward, that's where we would really love some red tape help from you guys. And those things can eat like a couple months, just like that. And so if we're able to, we'll obviously go through the proper procedures, but if we're able to eat some red tape quicker, then it can definitely bring down that 12-month mark.
So where my head is at currently is, as you saw, we're gonna basically have a workshop in June to kind of plan out our capital expenditures for the next year and really 5 years. And so I think this will be a good time for us to break this down. Also, full disclosure, want to share a project that we did with another local property owner that was very outside the box, and we haven't really done it yet. We've just kind of agreed to do it, I think, is an opportunity where the Paddock funded the project. The property owner basically took a loan from the Paddock for 5 years, and in that 5 years, in this particular deal, they had to pay back half the loan based on the income produced from their property. If they're able to do so and meet a few other hurdles, then the balance of the loan was forgiven. And so it ended up being a 50% investment from the Paddock, but they got upfront funding. So that will be something that we'll probably just discuss to see if this is a good fit for that or not. But all of your projections are going to be very helpful at that point. Any cash that you plan on putting into this project would be helpful at that point. But I'm going to suggest, since this is the first time we're seeing it, that we table it until that June discussion. Any other thoughts? All right, we're excited. Thank you. Oh, Matt.
I've told you before personally that I admire your ambition for this project. And all of us want to see something happen with that building, and we like what you're doing here, but we have been given a lot to digest. And I think that's something we need to consider. I think that everyone is on board to try to get this building up and going.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for being here.
If we were interested in just walking through it one time, just to see it,
Yeah.
would y'all be open to that?
I would be honored.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm over there pretty much 5 days a week, so, yeah.
Making beautiful furniture. Thank y'all.
Best. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is to discuss and consider FY 2024 park capital projects. And for that, I'll call on, looks like, Mr. Sims with a box.
You know, Carnell and I are a lot alike, and the similarities between he and I are just, they're endless. The thing he holds over me is that I wanted to be good at track and field.
And
He was actually really good at track and field. So I'm just here as a wannabe, and that's all I am. I actually get the role occasionally of just saying, look, you know what, we're just not perfect. And my mother told me that when you make an apology, you should bring a gift with your apology. And so I'm now going to A, apologize, and B, I'm going to hand out a gift because I thought that would make the whole thing go a little bit better. So here's the mistake we made. We made the mistake of having an item that was on your docket, which was the bridge at Ben Gill and going over the pond. And we handled that like a standard city project instead of handling that like a paddock board project. Handling it like a paddock board project means you come forward and you say, hey, here's option A, option B, option C. You've got a variety of things. It's your money as the paddock board. You guys vote before we spend money, before we go down the path to make financial commitments. You guys look at it and say, oh, I don't like option C, I like option A, I don't like B, and blah, 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 whatever it is. Or you tell us to go back to the drawing board and we do it again. We didn't follow that process with the bridge over the pond. So we are going to incur that expense as a city. We are not going to ask the paddock board to accept that expense because you guys didn't get a chance to weigh in on it and vote on it and all that sort of good stuff. So we have park maintenance money. We can eat that cost. That's okay. So I just want you to realize that if we know that we didn't do something quite right, then we'll come forward and say, we're not going to put that on your bank account. We're going to just accept the fact that we didn't do it right. We apologize for not doing it right, and we'll get it done better next time. So we want to have a great relationship with the paddock board where you guys know that we won't make that kind of mistake. We'll let you be fully involved in the project. I think that's what any city needs to do with a sales tax funded entity. That's what we've been doing with the Economic Development Corporation for years. That's what we should be doing with you guys. So that's my spiel, and I hope I don't have to talk about it anymore. I hope I can just hand out cookies. So I'll turn it back to you, Tori Lucas, and you let me know. Would you like cookies, or do you want any more explanation? I'd be happy to talk about it. Whatever you need. Anything?
We appreciate your remarks. Any questions for Mr. Sims? Thank you.
Okay, awesome. By the way, I'll say that these cookies, oddly enough, I graduated from Indiana University many years ago. And it turns out that this box of cookies is from
Thank you.
Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh, how beautiful.
And there's a place called Blondie's there that makes fancy schmancy cookies.
Thank you.
And there you go. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And so I was told by Jana not to hand them out because staff loves them.
Oh.
So if you, shall I give one to Carnell? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Should Carnell get one? All right. There you go, Carnell. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that was my only role at this meeting.
All right,
And
we
you guys are great.
appreciate
We're
it.
gonna take it from
They
there.
are great.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Carnell, what
Thank
you
you.
got for us?
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Oh, so for today, we have our paddock board updates. You can go to the next slide. Just a kind of brief overview of the bridge. So we're going to go to, yes. We're going to keep moving. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes. So we have Bengill Park Courts and Fencing Project. First, we have our column with our FY24 approved budget for the resurfacing of the multipurpose court with the fencing included. You see that's $85,000. With next court, there's the tile process. This is what you see at the Jamie Foxx Court at Breezy Hill. We have at $147,800. We have a price from Lone Star Courts. This is the acrylic process. This is currently what you see at the tennis courts out at Bengill, and that came in at $56,499. And then we have a price from Sports King of Texas, which is the same process at $78,469. For the next, we have the tennis courts with the conversion of the 2 tennis courts going into the 8 pickleball courts. We were approved budget for $100,000. Next court was going to come through with the tile process at $326,450. And Lone Star with $158,676. And Sports King of Texas with $281,057. With our approved budget being a total of $260,000. Next court total price $474,250. Lone Star $215,175. And Sports King of Texas with $359,526.
Hey, Carnell, there was an update on the packet this morning, so the ones you guys have is different from the one on the screen. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Peyton. So next slide, if you guys can see, we'll go over the layout. So we have the multipurpose court layout. One is the high school measurements. The other one's pro basketball. That one's kind of more suitable. It has more space on the court for people to play. So probably recommend going with that one rather than the high school. And that is 100 by 100. Next is our tennis court layout. This is for courts 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is going to be the courts that are fenced off closer to the pool, and we're going with a more modern design with the blue and green rather than the red. Next is the pickleball, and these are just layout and color designs and options for the pickleball court that you guys can see.
So tennis court, it'll not be an overlay of pickleball. There'll be tennis courts and there'll be pickleball courts.
Yes, ma'am.
So this would be where the little dual court is that's over.
Kind of standalone. Yes. Yes, sir.
I understand, that was where I thought we were gonna do, but I didn't realize you could fit 8 pickleball courts on 2, right? 2 tennis courts, so.
Yes, ma'am.
I think, because the other ones that I had seen, they had taken the tennis courts and overlaid with pickleball, so if pickleball goes away, or the fad goes away, you still have tennis courts. Because you can always, I guess, kind of recover pickleball with tennis.
Yeah, and I'll say, we've played pickleball on the existing Terrell courts, just using like cones to block it off. I mean, the net's the same, I think, and the kitchen's the same. I mean, yeah, I was expecting overlay, but now that I'm seeing this, like, man, that'll be a busy, like, that'd be a lot to.
And to note, we did talk to the contractors, so they would separate it in a way so that people wouldn't be running over each other.
Oh, okay.
So there would be a divider so that those courts won't interfere while you're playing pickleball. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am. So if you go to the next slide, Ms. McCoy was already ahead of us. You can see some tile examples, and you see in the left-hand corner, you have the style of pickleball on one side and tennis court on the other. Next slide, we have the acrylic courts. Like we said, this is what we have currently. And the last slide is our budget. Any questions?
On two of the bids, there was no tile acrylic surfacing, and one of them has with the tile acrylic. What's the pros and cons for either?
This is just from contractor statements. The acrylic, you have to kind of resurface it every 5 to 6 years. So that UV starts to wear out on the courts. As far as the tile, you're gonna see less fading and less wear and tear.
Do we know how
So
long it lasts?
I'd be lying if I told you I didn't. Yeah.
You know what kind of tile it is?
Yes, it's a Duracourt tile surfacing, so it's kind of yes, it's outdoor rated, commercial grade tile.
Okay, so it's not like a ceramic chip or anything?
Yes, sir.
16-year warranty.
On the tile?
Uh-huh, Duracourt tile.
We're looking at 3 times the life cycle, but not 3 times the cost.
Yeah, in my mind, the Duracourt, it drains better. Like, the water's not gonna pool, because you're never gonna have a perfectly even surface, so the water goes under the tile, and if it's done right, it runs off.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna add one thing to the Duracourts. Keep in mind, if we do the acrylic, always your subgrade or the subsurface is gonna deflect up through whatever liquefied product or surfacing product you install on top of the surface. With the Duracourt, remember, those are actually tiles that sit on top of your existing surface, so you never see it. So even if the subgrade or the pavement below the Duracourt is having issues, you'll never know it. So keep that in mind.
If you have an issue with the tile, can you just replace a tile?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you go back to the bids page? Fencing included, screening included?
Yes, ma'am.
Fencing would be that black vinyl chain link.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
There are 2 courts and 1 court.
Tennis area?
Where is that right now? There's 2 courts and 1 court. So which side, what side would you be doing?
So there's one standalone of 2 courts. That's the one that we're trying to convert to pickleball, while the rest will remain the same. So it's 6 total. Pickleball. Yes, ma'am.
So we'll end up with 4 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's plenty.
That's what I'm trying to work
I feel you. I'm just gonna speak up and say, we have the money. I'd like to see, I mean, in this budget, we have the money. I mean, everyone is talking about this, we'll talk about this, it'll be very utilized. I understand your math, but when we picked 260, I think it was kind of yeah. So I don't mind that if we exceed budget for a longer lasting product that our entire community can utilize. Mary, to go back, because my mind was just like yours, I thought we were gonna do overlay, like each court could be pickleball and tennis, but if you look at this tile court examples picture, Peyton, can you pull it up where it's the blue court, the red court, and then it's the actual picture, this one. So if you look over on that left-hand side at all those pickleball courts, there is fencing in between, because if you're playing pickleball next to me, you're gonna hate me, because that ball goes everywhere. So this helps versus if we turned what's on the right-hand side into 8 pickleball courts and 2 tennis courts. So, yeah, I like, assuming this is what we're going to get with the low chain link fence in between the pickleball courts. There's a lot of lighting there too, but I'm guessing our existing lighting lights the courts already. Okay, that may be a future project. You can still play at night right now, there'll just be some dark spots because it wasn't designed.
Come back in after the fact and the lighting, that would not be an issue.
No.
Because I always remember we can go with solar lighting. That's improved tremendously.
We won't focus on lighting right now. This would be, most people are gonna play during the day.
So talk to me about the design. If we do decide to go with the tiling, I guess, does a plain red tile versus a red tile with the City of Terrell logo on it cost any different? Okay.
No, ma'am.
So when I'm looking at page 59, just so we're all on the same page, the little Terrell America logo, is that planned to be part of our courts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On page 59? The little,
I don't know, y'all, that logo's gonna change.
So from the beautiful thing, if you go with the tile, it can be removed, but the paddock board has a clean slate. You can make decisions on the design phase. Once we get to this point, if you approve it, then we're gonna come back to you for the actual approved design. And so there will be a series of meetings, obviously, after.
What do you need from us today?
Approval to move forward with acrylic or tile. Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, let me get some clarity here. All right, I see the cost difference. Tell me again the advantages versus disadvantages to compare both acrylic versus tile, because I see the cost, different.
There's actually multiple advantages.
Okay.
You've got the life cycle, right? You've got a 5-year or so life cycle, plus you really need to do annual maintenance on an acrylic court, which we hadn't done we hadn't practiced that very well, as you can see on our current courts. Then you also have, with the tile, you have the ability to place over the existing surface without having to do a number of series of improvements on the surface. And if the surface has issues, they don't deflect up through your tile versus acrylic court. If we have an issue with our pavement moving, shifting, guess what? All of that's gonna deflect up through your pavement. And then the acrylic, all the hard work you put in, we've gotta make the repair and do it all over again.
You can't patch.
You can't patch it and not have a good quality, clean slate without obviously resurfacing the whole court. That, I would prefer not to comment on that.
We can
Because
ask Desi. Personal experience.
I don't have any personal experience in playing on the tile, because when I came up, I was old school. So we played on wooden courts, and this didn't exist. But according to the research that we've done, people have fallen in love with the tile. I mean, the NBA's doing it. That's all they practically do now. There's tennis courts popping up all over. That's what they're installing, so. Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's like, what are you willing to accept or be satisfied with? And the beautiful thing about each one of these products, we have them in our city. You remember the Jamie Foxx court there at Breezy Hill? I've been on that court. It is amazing.
Still looks brand new.
It still looks brand new. I mean, it's holding up. It's holding up extremely well. Yeah.
Would like to be a part of the design process, and if it's not more, I'd like to see, you know, if it's not the logo, if it's not just block letters, Terrell across them, like something other than just the typical court striping to give it a little more for our money.
Yes, ma'am. The builder, the manufacturer, they'll even come and join us and bring renderings so that you can actually make decisions.
So the tile will have 3 times the, I guess, life cycle. Okay.
I'd be curious to know, too, what the warranty is from Next Court. So Next Court did the Breezy Hill project?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if we decide to go with tile, is it worth getting another bid? Next Court did a good job. I don't know how many people are in this industry, but shouldn't we get?
They're part of the buy board. Mhm.
Because they're what? I'm sorry.
They're part of the buy board, so.
Part of a cooperative.
Oh,
Right.
gotcha.
The municipality, they're part of a cooperative. The bidding process has already occurred. You don't have to advertise and do proposals unless you so choose. We'll be glad to do
So the buy board is something shared between multiple municipalities, or just, so there's probably another vendor that does tile on there?
There is. So, and we get to choose whichever vendor you so please. But you can't compete for the pricing. So typically, if you're on the buy board, the pricing has already been established.
Oh,
So that's the purpose of the buy board.
okay.
I would still like to see other bids with the same technology.
It won't be the exact same technology. It will be something different, right? Because Next Court, they've got the market on their particular product. So we'll go out and get something similar.
I just mean tile versus vinyl. Does that help?
Oh,
Does that help make sense?
More tile bids?
Yeah, if more tile bids, because if we're gonna double our budget, I'm not sure, like, I think it might be worth it, but I would like to see what other tile bids look like to make sure we actually need to double our budget, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're saying go ahead and get quotes, or do you want us to go ahead and put together a bid package?
Because this is a quote
This is an actual,
bid.
a bid, proposal for construction. This is something you can approve, and then we move forward to the design phase.
I mean, I think we need to be looking at apples to apples, so I would like to see at least one more bid proposal on a tile surfacing.
Right, 'cause what we're looking at is tile and then 2 others that are not the same. So it seems like we're leaning towards the tile, obviously, but we don't have anything to compare Next Course,
Bid to,
pricing.
yeah.
I'm wondering, kind of like Mary was saying earlier, pickleball fad, we know that tennis has been around for a long time, it's gonna stay around. Do we consider doing tile for tennis courts and acrylic for the pickleball, so it could be reconverted to the next fad or back to tennis in the future? I don't know how that would play out, but.
You know, if we're looking at a 16-year lifespan, I think the trend will last majority of that. 16 years went by like that.
Right.
Because I've had some people say they can't play tennis.
Right.
Now, they love tennis, but because of the court and the track beach, they can't play anymore. They're very excited about the pickleball coming in.
And I don't see in this bid proposal anything about a warranty, so that information would be very helpful as well.
I'll entertain a motion, though, to move forward with the tile, we support a tile construction. And we'd like to see one more bid before we do a final approval. But if maybe we can get that done by the next month's meeting, then y'all can move forward. I don't know the process, but. Okay. Okay.
Are we asking for a motion to proceed with a bid process on the tile courts? Is that how we need to word that motion?
So bid process sounds different than a quote.
Yes.
So, real quick, I was just talking to
Glenn.
because, like, it's already been a long morning. Hi, Cornell.
Good morning.
So what we can do is, so your purchasing co-ops, you have contractors who go through a process to be on that co-op. And so definitely they can reach out to multiple vendors within that co-op. Next Court is going to have their version of the tile, and I think it's called something plus. And so what you'll see is another company who has their own version of that tile. And so it's just a matter of reaching out on the co-op and posting a quote there. So that should be no big deal.
Okay.
And
So
what
not
the
a bid,
numbers-
but a quote. Yeah.
Would the numbers look any different if you get a bid from a company outside the co-op? It just sounds like, I don't know if I don't understand the co-op, but it's like we want to stay within that.
There's the
We can't look
potential
outside of that.
You could actually do that. Every manufacturer's gonna have their brand type or brand,
Tile.
Material.
whether it's Dura-Tide or Super Plus or whatever. But it's gonna be a comparable type of product, whether it be a tile. But, it doesn't prevent you from.
The benefit,
asking something.
yeah, the benefit to using the purchasing co-op is that you are able to just get quotes because this is over 50,000. If we go with a vendor that's not within that purchasing co-op, we're talking about sealed bids, and now we're doing solicitations, and it's a 60 to 90-day process. So you basically you take out the process and you're able to get quotes.
They've already been vetted by.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, so.
All right. So we recommend moving forward with this, but I guess we're not ready to really vote on a spending.
And you did say you were doing the larger court for the resurface multipurpose.
The NBA.
Yes.
Perfect,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. Do you need anything else from us?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Cornell.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving right along. Next, we'll receive a summer 2024 City of Terrell project update from Raylan.
All right. We will get through this. I think the most exciting part about this presentation is this is all of the projects that we started talking about 18 months ago, 18 to 24 months ago, and they're really happening. They're going on a timeline. We've got some things going on. So I'm going to start with just the word Complete Streets. This project was kicked off in July of '22. Y'all were part of the project review committee, which included Paddock, Kaufman County, TxDOT, COG. And so just putting together those options for Highway 80. We had a lot of discussion about parallel parking and widths and lots of, transportation questions. And so what we've done is we have come together with TxDOT and had a lot of follow-up meetings with them. And we're going to propose, and you'll see this item coming up, a memorandum of understanding. Getting the quotes and everything back on the construction of Highway 80. I think the most important part for this process with TxDOT is just to understand that when it is time to reconstruct Highway 80, that everyone agrees to the cross-sections on the street and they understand the process that we went through to save the parallel parking. And so we are wrapping up this process. We've got a lot of public feedback. We got TxDOT feedback. We have concept designs done with our engineering group. So we have a really tight-knit project to put on the shelf. And we know with the growth that we have, eventually TxDOT will come to us and say it's time to reconstruct Highway 80. So if y'all will go to the first TxDOT construction estimate One more. So here is one of my favorite maps. So these are all of the sections of roadway. We went ahead and got our construction cost, and so it's a large number for a lot of transportation and highway needs for Terrell. Those orange sections we're going to talk a little bit about because that's what's being picked up in our quiet zones. You do see Town Square there. We know the sections of Spur 226. The $4 million to your far right, that is the Terrell State Hospital entrance, which has been approved by TxDOT. The city of Terrell is paying for the design of that entrance, and TxDOT is picking up the construction, and that will be open before the hospital is complete. Next page is the cost estimate on the couplet, which is what kind of scared us away from pursuing that. We loved the couplet idea. A lot of people loved the couplet idea, and in fact, TxDOT even thought it was a great idea because for us to do the couplet, they wanted to take both of those sections off system. So they were open to, y'all have a lot of fun with your couplet, but we're going to even remove that section of Highway 80 from our system. And so we would have had to maintain both sides of that. So
They didn't really support it.
I mean, they loved the idea, they just weren't going to fund it. They said it made sense, they liked the way that traffic would flow, but that was a great opportunity for them to say, now we can step out of even that one section of Highway 80. So the very next page is if we looked at, I'm sorry, go back one. Okay, so because we recognize that if we don't have a couplet, we could still upgrade and do some changes there on Nash Street. So maybe we don't make the connection, or we do eventually, but we could focus in on the areas between Rockwall and Spur 226. So we got some estimates for Nash Street. This is some of construction costs just for local streets, local funding opportunities. Again, we've got the engineering work that's going on over there at the state hospital, the Spur 226 options. We've got some roadway around Town Square. What would it look like if Rockwall was extended down? And then also the transportation needs from Southwestern Christian College, moving that traffic east, south of Highway 80. Next page is just a little bit more detail about the state hospital entrance. We are moving forward with Union Pacific Railroad quiet zones. Quiet zones was part of your PRC. We have the Chrissy Grant application, which we will be wrapping up in the next week. We're actually going to start reviewing that draft next week, and so that will be turned in at the end of the month. We were able to include all of Broad Street within the quiet zone, and so everything here in blue, including South Alley, and the purple of Broad is all part of quiet zones, and so that is a complete roadway construction upgrade. Here, the next page is an example of our cross-section on the railroad crossing. This is one that's going to be quite extensive when we look at Bowser and doing the new entrance to Southwestern Christian College. So this will include the crossing upgrades, some sidewalks, definitely some median. We're going to straighten up that entrance a little bit so that the college gets a more defined upgrade to their entrance. When we look at, next page, when we look at the quiet zones, we have the full engineering design through environmental that is being paid for by the 2019 Kaufman County bond. We'll have our Chrissy Grant application in June. You know, when we talk about any extended funding, or because what we're going to have is at the crossings, there's going to be clearly a dividing line of this is what Chrissy Grant covered, and this is where the concrete street stops and asphalt picks up. And so this is just some estimates of how much farther down we could possibly go with the roadway just making sure that we're engineering that to where it's a good stopping point moving forward. Little bit of exciting news, just talking about Town Square. We have been meeting with designers. We've got all of the land acquisition completed. TERS #1 board pays for the maintenance. They are also paying, you can go to the next one, they're also paying for the demolition of the existing structures there in Town Square. It is my goal to, I've said this before, just be a really good neighbor and take care of the property and get us to a good place of nice open green space there in Town Square while we're going through the process. The next few slides are just some of Mr. Sims' favorites, and I like to include them because I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that this is a massive amount of property. And so, you know, when you talk about some projects that we've all seen the Rice University, we all love Pearl Brewery, but like when you put it inside our Town Square, you really start to see how big our Town Square is. One of my favorite scale comparisons is Sundance Square. You think it's really big when you're there, but when you put it inside our Town Square, it's not going to take up hardly any space. So 22 acres is a lot. I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to do with that 22 acres. Just need to be, my spill for y'all today is, I had a meeting with Sims the other day, and when you look at the map that showed all of the roadways, when you look at the narrative that we put together for the Chrissy Grant, when you look at Town Square, we moved really fast with a lot of ideas, and we know that there is a whole lot of projects going on. And my commitment to y'all today is we do have some funding available. The city has some funding for some streets that they know that they want to do. I'm going to be asking y'all to help support the local funding for the quiet zones in an upcoming item. And what I was asking Sims permission for was to take a step back, look at the available funding that we had, and I would much rather use our available funding as matches for grants. I had a phone call with our engineering firm and also the COG Sustainability Development Division. And I keep going back to, we have such an incredible story, and we haven't figured out how much of this is grant worthy, how much of this can we get some transportation grant funds. We know that we have some regional transportation credits hanging out there. And just practicing that narrative about Town Square and about the growth that the city has. I really think within the next couple of months, I'll be able to come to you. My goal is to come to you and to the city council with more of a grant planning strategy. We've now identified the projects. We know the work that needs to be done. We just need to figure out before we start spending a lot of money, what money is available out there that we can start matching our efforts to. So this is existing, which is exciting. And like I said, the land acquisition is complete. And so we're showing all of the structures there. My next page is my goal for summer 2025. We are working on demolition of the existing structures. We are going to preserve the Wall of Honor mural building that's there. We have done tree surveys. There are a lot of trees that we're going to be able to save on this property. One of the existing warehouses will stay there on the Adelaide side. Obviously, the silos stay and hopefully will be preserved as part of this project. We're showing Newton improvements. There's a parking lot that's being proposed for that church down in the southern portion. And again, that goes back to the discussion that I was having. We've got some funding. We just want to make sure that we're looking at this, the bigger picture, and seeing where we can plug in these available funds and possibly turn them to bigger projects. So the very next page is what would just be the greening phase. And that's where all of the interior streets are demolished. We have our park maintenance functions that happen inside of the mural building. We have enhanced the tree grove area. That building there along Adelaide would actually be available for reuse, whether that be an outdoor venue, restaurant, brewery. We would be able to start that process. And we've got the land where it's graded and it's draining, and we actually have good, nice, open green space. So
The city owns that warehouse now?
Yeah, it's on a lease back until March of 2025.
Got
Yeah. So, again, this is just kind of an overview of everything that we've been working on. I want to perfect our story. I want to, get your first reaction to kind of our small step goals. And I really think that now is the time to just take a small breath and see how we can leverage our available funding and partnerships with COG. And also, Chrissy, through conversations that we've had with the FRA and UP, Union Pacific Railroad actually submitted their letter of support on our grant behalf, which was huge. So there's a lot of really exciting things, and I don't want to just keep coming to the different boards and city council for one-off projects. I would rather have a grant program in place and be able to show you the grants that we think we're going to be eligible for, and some of that, the funding. I would rather see your money go towards funding larger pieces than just one-off projects. So.
And at some point, we've got to have private investment in the buildings that are going to go on here. And it's not going to be a guy. It's going to be a development corporation.
Yes.
That sees the potential in it.
And I've got a slide in our capital plan where we're going to talk a little bit about what that RFQ looks like on some potential there. So any questions about this? There's a lot. And then, of course, in the background, you've got Becca, who is fast and furious. We know we need the library. We know we need, that's going to be one of the big kickoff buildings in Town Square is going to be the public library. And so that's also happening as well.
Going way back to the beginning, because I have actually recently had questions about this. So what the city ended up with, Moore Avenue from Rockwall to Virginia, is 2 lanes in each direction, no turn lane, but a parallel parking lane.
Wider sidewalks?
Yes, wider sidewalks. Yeah, we were able to achieve the sidewalks and parking by eliminating turn lanes. So part of this presentation is just getting a good simplified, this is where we have come since the last time we had a town hall. So presenting this to you, also the city council and the EDC, we'll be ready to roll this out as a follow-up to our February town hall. And so we'll have the boards and we'll be able to present all of that. But we're kind of practicing a few times before.
I just want to say, as much as the railroad creates complications for our downtown plan, I love that our state highway parallels it versus what Forney gets to deal with.
Yes.
Because when you talk about taking away turn lanes, I'm obviously not a traffic engineer, but I'm like, okay. But I think, thank goodness, we do not have a railroad bifurcating our downtown.
Exactly.
Yes, I think the other will work its way through. We've all talked about slowing down traffic anyway, so they'll stop and look side to side. So I think that will naturally happen whenever that plan goes in play.
So that is your overview, and then we have a few action items based on the information that I just shared.
One more question, just because I don't understand the ins and outs of city funding. I only understand school funding a little bit more, but when the schools talk about a project of this size, they talk about going out for a bond election. Is that what cities do for things of this magnitude, for large libraries, public buildings?
You could do transportation bonds or facility bonds. Those are the two categories. It's not in the cards. Generally, what your city council does is, you know, they do their spending within certificates of obligation, or like we said, you know, putting together funding as local matches for grants. It would be really, really hard to ever say out loud, no one would want to say out loud that they want to go for a bond.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of this would be, how can we figure out how to do this?
Okay. All right, any questions for Raylan on that item? All right, if not, let's discuss and consider approval of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Terrell, TxDOT, COG, Kaufman County, and City of Terrell, Paddock for complete streets and quiet zones in Terrell.
So in your packet is a copy of the memorandum of understanding. This went before your city council. We asked them to kind of kick this off as the city understands that these meetings took place. The cross sections have been established, and basically this just kind of documents the process, and also TxDOT acknowledging cross sections and recommendations for Highway 80 for future development. So it was approved by city council for the city manager's signature, and so this is now being forwarded to TxDOT, COG, Kaufman County, and Paddock.
After you've had a moment to review, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 7.6. Thank you, Hillary. Is there a second? Thank you, Mary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. This time we'll discuss and consider Paddock Resolution Number 2024-3, Federal Railroad Administration Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Program Grant.
So what I have put together is a draft resolution, which would be support of the actual Chrissy grant that would go under the signature of the City of Terrell. The request from the city to Paddock is that you would be the funding agent for our local match. So page 3 of this portion of your packet shows the Downtown Quiet Zone project. Grant funding is $15 million. The 20% local match for all of the downtown railroad crossing upgrades is $3 million. The U.S. Department of Transportation offers a TIFIA loan, which generally comes in at half of the interest rate of the federal loan interest at that time. It also, I've got some information which I can share with you. So it's half the standard rate. It's got some flexible amortization. You can go up to 35-year repayment. It's deferrable for up to 5 years. Because of the definition of this project, it would qualify for a TIFIA loan. And so the proposal would be, if we assume the 5% cost overrun and any other federally eligible items spillover, we're looking at probably a 5.7 dedication for the Paddock board, and that would give you funding for anything that came up throughout the project. We were very conservative on our grant funding request. We do feel like that the $15 million is going to cover our construction plus some. This also includes the additional roadways like Broad and South Alley. So we are getting a lot for this project. It's not just the individual crossings. We were able to do some extra transportation, complete streets, and so that is your concrete streets and sidewalks and everything included. So The resolution is if you agree to be the funding for the local match, the resolution just simply gives the city manager negotiating rights, the right to come forward and allow us to do the research on the loan application and put together the funding package for you in support of this Chrissy grant, should we be awarded the project. Obviously, this funding request would not go forward if, we'll be back at square one, what we're gonna do next phase if we're not awarded the grant.
So this might obligate us to how much?
I'm proposing a 5.7, or the 5,750,000, including a little bit of cost overrun in any additional spillover. But it's definitely the 3 million for the local match. I just put that number in there so it would be a number not to exceed. We could look at doing, if you wanted to pull out any of the cost overrun and possibly look at that separately and only look at the 3 million for the 20% local match. I was just trying to do a cost breakdown of some of those items. We would need to borrow. You could probably cover the 3, but it would deplete your cash balance.
So this would authorize, if we're, approved and move forward, this would authorize us to enter into a loan agreement for how much?
So the resolution just states that Paddock funds would be used for local match, including project cost overrun for grant application through a TIFIA loan. So there is no amount in the resolution. So it would require an additional Paddock action if the grant is approved. But this basically gives us the authority to bring you options for borrowing in the future to fund this project.
Okay.
And so it's very specific to that.
It's kind of almost like an MOU saying we would be on the hook for 20% later down the road once that becomes concrete.
Yes.
Questions for Raylan? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 7.7 as presented. Like this would help Raylan continue on her path to funding this project. There's hesitancy, let's discuss, but I don't see this obligating us to a loan because there's not a loan amount. We're not signing anything. This is just allowing her to continue her paperwork, honestly. Is that correct?
It's weird about that we have to be on the hook for the whole 3 if.
Yeah, that takes a separate action from the board.
Okay. Yeah.
So if we approve this, then when the actual financials come back, we can decline those? Or we can't?
No, I would take it that we can because this is authorizing, where did I see that?
You're just applying for.
We are, yes, and
Get the grant, we could still refuse it if we decided not to fund it.
well, so the resolution is written so that we are requesting that y'all represent the local match funding if we are awarded the Chrissy grant, which would be coming back to city council or to anyone else, even if it's just to staff. If you came back and told me even today, like, I don't want to do the full 3 million, we're only in this for so much, then that would have to be, handled on the other side. And so it just, the request by the city is that y'all would be the 20% local match
For quiet zones.
for quiet zones.
So no other board has been, this is.
Approach.
Yes, the only other funding that has taken place is we did receive $3.5 million from Kaufman County, and they're the ones that are doing the design, and also part of that design is paying for grant administration.
Based on my position in the city, I mean, I don't know if I want to put the whole 20% on the paddock board, even being in both places. I mean, I think, honestly, we should incur a little of that cost as well. Those are our citizens. We're using the crossing. We're going to be walking the crossing. We're going to be enjoying the amenities associated with Quiet Zone. And that's just my concern. Like, okay, we going to dump all this on paddock. I don't know if I just fully feel comfortable with that. But
Okay.
that's just my concern.
I appreciate that. I mean, our budget is, what, $1 million or something a year right now, and we have already obligated ourselves to some loans with lighting and really complete streets. So how about we defer this, once we have a capital plan and we know what our cash flow looks like for the next few years, we can work this in and make sure it fits, or to what amount it fits. So would y'all feel more comfortable deferring it and adding that to the agenda for capital planning?
Okay, so I am good with that. What I will ask is part of the action and part of the documentation that we'll have to have for the grant, and Stephanie helped me think this through. So what if your resolution was drafted that we can say in black and white that you will support and fund a portion, no amount, a portion of the 20% local. The city resolution says the same thing. So I have two entities who agree that they will both step in and assist, and then when that final number comes through, then that can be handled just through actions on both parties.
I like that.
Do that? Okay, yeah, let's do it that way. And then that way, no one's really, but we have it for our grant application. Okay. Yes, because I'll need Tori to sign the resolution. Perfect.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, and this last piece is really just a lot of things for y'all to think about before our next meeting. The first few pages is just, it was the report that we got back from the Texas Downtown Association, and I wanted to share it with you. I think it's a great read, and the biggest takeaway is we're doing a lot of things right. And so that was really, really good. Some of the highlights that they had for the city, and I don't think about this enough, but I love that they included it. We always talk about being a 40-minute drive from downtown, et cetera, but a close proximity to 3 recreational lakes, which I forget that. They loved our public art downtown. There was lots of talk about our identity, and we've talked about, looking at a consultant for next fiscal year. Some of the traffic calming, one recommendation which I loved was getting with the TxDOT area engineer to reprogram our pedestrian heads to where you don't have to push the button for the crosswalks to come, but they're on a timer so that it's not just waiting for cars or people on the cross streets, but that that's going to happen anyway. And so that, I thought that was a really good idea, and it slows traffic down. Just some recommendations for artwork. Loved the line that said downtown Terrell has more than enough current parking. So we do have that in writing, which I love, but there is a lack of management of parking. So we know that we've got some things to work on there, but the number of spaces that we have has been confirmed, and so, it may just be labeling or some signage, making sure that, our business owners are parking in the back to allow customers in the front. So again, it's just that management piece. Some suggestions of what we can do for vacant storefronts, signage. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all of this with you, but we were able to check a lot of boxes. Create a cluster of restaurants and beverage-focused retail. I think we have a really solid plan for one block, and they're doing really well. They thought it would be a great idea if we brought food trucks downtown and let them open, and that does work out very well. Anyway, so I wanted y'all to have a copy of this because it may give you ideas moving forward or projects that you would like for me to investigate during our budget process. So if you'll go to the Complete Streets map again. This is just where I'm going to reiterate what I said before. We have a lot of projects, and my promise to you is that we will take a global stand on how we can connect these and use city and paddock funds for grant opportunities and not just one-off projects. I pulled down a few pages of your initial capital work plan, and I just kind of wanted to, congratulate and show you a couple of check boxes. So,
Page are you on?
16, well, that's what mine is. Let's go to existing public partnerships. We're in the capital work plan. Go back. There we go. So I just started with your page right out of your book of the existing public partnerships and just how some of this has already come into play. You have your county bond program, which we've talked about. They helped with some of the design of Highway 80, helping us get through the concept plan. We had the funds for the quiet zones, and that's what we're working through right now. So they will be paying for this project all the way through environmental clearance. We've got the Regional Transportation Council. We talked a little bit about those regional transportation credits. And that was when I had the meeting with COG. And in listening to our story, they were like, you know what, you really need to be talking to the strategic development, and this is more of an economic development grant. And so that's where I think COG is really going to help us. But we do know that we have those credits, and we just want to make sure that they get plugged in to the right project. You had TERS number 1, who did the phase 1 of the BFTS building. It was purchased. We had plans drawn up for that building. It may be a town square project option because we're going to get to some ideas here in the back. PPP for land banking. I mean, there's a lot of check marks here. And then also your South Alley and North Alley. So North Alley, of course, is complete, and South Alley will become a concrete street whenever we do our quiet zones. Next page, again, when we talk about potential, these are projects that are currently happening. So all of your list of potential partnerships, you're already deep into planning and also have contracts on file. I just pulled down the next 2 pages, which was the potential for private sector. We talked a little bit about, what does it look like once Town Square, can portions of that be turned over to a developer? Do we have some other land around downtown that can be turned over to a developer? Thresholds for your projects, just a reminder, this is what y'all originally adopted. So we'll go into, the next page is the list that y'all started with for your short-term, high-impact projects. This was the next few pages. This I assume was kind of the process that y'all went through where you wrote down some ideas and then you ranked them. And so I just wanted to bring this list back to y'all. If there's something on this list that you still want to be looking at, do you want to change some of these? We'll keep going through because I'm also providing your list of large projects directly out of your original capital plan. Peyton, if you'll go to the first spreadsheet that looks like this. So I took that list that was in your notebook and I just listed out the projects and then providing you some staff updates and a few notes. So when you talk about building purchases or renovations, you're potentially, well, we know for sure that you will have a building within Town Square, which is the 100 East Grove. And so there's a great opportunity there to provide an RFQ, try to find a developer, really try to provide some incentives to bring someone in for that space.
That's the Reg Tomlin building?
Mm-hmm.
But is it going to be there long-term? Is there always going to be a metal building there?
So that building fits the footprint of Town Square. So the building itself, if it wanted to be, if it was renovated and stayed exactly where it is, it's within the proposed building footprint. So we've had one of the architects who's working with the library, they came, and I'll bring y'all some of these drawings, they came up with some really cool ideas about how if you took out the center of that and made it open, kind of like a standard service type orientation there at Town Square. You know, there's a lot of options. You could just say that this needs to be the first block that we open up to a developer. You know, there's options for the existing building or the space. The other idea that I wanted to throw out to you is 113 West Moore. If it was not a British museum and maybe it could be a private developer or something that was offered to a future developer for downtown space. So we are definitely open to that idea. I would love to hear y'all's feedback or ideas. You know, I think originally I begged Sims, like, if I could just demo it and make it like a pocket park, you know, anything right there. But looking at the timing, looking at everything that's going on downtown, if it became a British museum one day, that's great. If the British Museum could build in Town Square or out by the airport or anything, it's just if we're not going to get the momentum for that museum, my recommendation is that that building not stay there in its current state.
So quick update, I had a discussion with one of the board members, he's not the president of the BFTS Museum, and y'all may have caught on to this along the way. I didn't until I heard it from his mouth and it like registered that the intent of that building was never to be the British Flying Training School Museum. It was merely to be like an attractor for people that come downtown and they're just walking and they walk into the museum and they go, oh, this is neat. And someone inside that museum goes, well, this isn't actually the museum. The museum is still out at the airport. Because, you know, a lot of their displays are huge and expensive, and I'm one vote on this board, but I don't mind telling you that I do not believe that that is the highest and best use for that building. Now, I'll also say I don't want to put a pocket park there. We need buildings downtown, ideally with retail of some sort. That is a massive building, but somebody along the way has told us that it does, at least on the interior, need to be 100% demolished. Huge project, expensive project, needs to bring a crowd, and the museums that I see in other downtowns, they don't bring a crowd. So that's my opinion since you asked. Feedback.
Orient me. get to 113 West Moore, I should know this.
It's directly
The
across from
Chapman
American National
Building.
Bank. The Chapman Building, it's 3-story.
All the pretty marble. Yes, yes. So the city, TERS did purchase that building. So it is a city-owned facility, and Sims, I think, has finally said, gosh, maybe we could get this back on the tax rolls, maybe, I think that in a partnership between Paddock and TERS and the city, we could release an RFQ and find someone to do amazing things. TERS could step in, especially if there was residential, because that's on the property tax side. And I told y'all this early on, I always wanted to make sure that we were asking TERS for their assistance, because just like you shouldn't be paying for things that only people are going to be paying property tax on, and so you need to focus in on what's bringing in sales tax. And so if we're able to do some residential, then that would be, I love the partnership between Paddock and TERS.
Remind me, is that TERS 1? And their funding comes from property taxes from Crossroads?
Crossroads and downtown, so it's everything within that TERS.
Okay, a portion of the property taxes from downtown and Crossroads goes to fund this TERS. And the whole idea of TERS, like us, is quality of life and downtown life, and preserve the downtown, even though we have this beautiful shopping center out on the interstate.
Yeah.
What is their annual budget? I'm curious.
I will get y'all that number.
Okay.
I don't want to lie, because it is a very good number, but.
Who is the president or chairman of that board?
So TERS is represented by 2 county commissioners, and I can't remember the chairman's name right now. Do you remember?
Allison's checking.
You don't remember it? Like, why? I see him sitting right there, and I cannot, but right now we've got Terry Barber, Commissioner Hunt, Donna Anderson.
That's who we need a joint meeting with. If they're as focused on downtown as we are, we need to be on the same page. Please.
Yeah, no, I can do that.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I
Quiet
love
zones
the
and,
idea.
yeah, okay.
So anyway, I'll work on that a little bit if that's something that you are interested in, and, I'll draft some RFQs and kind of figure out how that can be laid out. We'll kind of leave the 100 East Grove thing up in the air a little bit. We have until March 2025. We'll kind of see how that progresses as we get funding for Town Square. Downtown parking, that was on your list, and we're making great strides. So more in Virginia, so I pretty much feel like we can take that off your list. Lighting downtown, I just added a note here that during the quiet zone project construction, we decided not to do lighting with the landscape because of all of the other transportation, and so we'll probably revisit that once we figure out the Chrissy grant and all the construction going on, because that would be the time to do downtown lighting. Murals is, well, as soon as my electricity goes in, my boxes have to go in, and Glenn and them are working on that, then Wi-Fi will be the very next day, yeah. Murals, that is a question. Is this something that y'all want to continue to fund, or would y'all just like for me to never ask y'all about murals again?
I'm curious, the wall on Houston Smith's building, what's this? Anything going there?
Allison? She's the mural queen.
She doesn't want to be there.
I can speak to that. Actually, that is something Mike had spoken to Houston about early on. I don't know if y'all remember that very first presentation. And I'm not going to remember his name right offhand, but it was actually a civil rights attorney that spent a small amount of time in Terrell and was on the board at Southwestern Christian College.
Who is the individual? Do you remember his name? I think you're correct. It was Fred Gray. So where that stands is the person that Mike had contacted about doing that mural is a professor of art, and he has very limited amounts of time to spend here in between semesters and that sort of thing. So after we got that assessment back on that wall and looking at the downtown assessment that we just recently got, Raylan and I just spoke about it, and it it seems like if we're going to move forward with that, our thought would be that we would do what the downtown assessment team said, and that is to do that on more of a billboard style platform that could be moved in front of the wall, because the wall is not in good condition. And what they're saying is don't spend your time painting on walls that are not in good condition to begin with, which is what we would be up with. I mean, we would have to spend an exorbitant amount of money to get that wall in a position where it would be a good surface to paint on. So rather than do that, it might be a better option to do it on a piece of canvas. And Raylan and I even talked about the possibility of approaching him and seeing if there's a way to just give him the canvas size, let him paint on it, and then bring it and install it. I mean, so.
What about the wall across the street? Who owns that? Cactus?
Yes, Clay Cactus.
So.
Queen Donuts used to be. Yeah, but it's a big wall.
So Raylan and I had actually talked about kind of the same template for that wall, but it could be something that could be more rotating and seasonal, where it could kind of be like a coming attractions type thing. You know, you could advertise upcoming festivals or things that are happening in downtown, that you could leave up, you know, maybe change out quarterly or however often that was needed.
Because when will the parking lot and landscaping be constructed on those two lots? This summer.
Yeah, contract to be released today.
So I kind of want to pause on the murals. We've learned a lot from the murals. We learned that there's some incredibly gifted mural artists, and there's some people that call themselves mural artists.
Correct.
So,
And unfortunately, the really gifted ones don't even live in this country anymore.
oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So,
I mean, I have a vision for those walls being something special, because it will be the gateway to downtown. Everybody from Wills Point, Greenville, Kaufman is gonna, I don't know. I support Houston's vision, but I also want to talk to him about how can we make that concept more of a welcome to Terrell. But your question was murals. I think we're kind of cool.
well, and I don't know how y'all feel about this, but, you know, that's been several years ago that Mike had the conversation with Houston. So it may be that someone, Tori, if you feel, want to revisit this with him and say, are we sure this is the direction we want to go? Here's some options, because the amount that was going to cost us to do that on the wall, even if the wall was in good condition, is more than we've spent on any other mural in this city. And well, and even the subject himself was very hesitant. He felt like there were other individuals in Terrell that might be more relevant.
Well, when we had the Wall of Honor.
Yes.
We didn't have at that time, which we had talked about that becoming, kind of filling that.
Right.
Purpose of local Terrell people that may.
Right.
And I feel like that need has kind of been filled. Yeah, because when Mike originally brought it to us, and we were like, it's great that this man that was here for this long did something, but the fact, we had even talked about, well, put him in there, but put the other gentleman in there.
Right.
As well.
And this isn't
done.
Right. This isn't totally relevant, but I've been approached by numerous people that are always saying, well, y'all need to honor I mean, just throwing it out there, you know, some of the cowboys from here that have gone on to be in the, you know, Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, or, you know, just different people that we haven't honored. So it makes you question whether, you know, that, and I don't know, maybe we need a committee, but
The white wall, I mean, where Cynthia and Lewis just whitewashed that wall was a game changer.
Right.
Made that building look new.
And there are still a few existing murals that have still not been painted and finished out. So I feel like if y'all want to keep those, then the money left in that fund would be better spent preserving the existing ones we have. I mean, they're very faded. You know, one example I can think of is the one on the side of the fire department. There's another one down, I mean, there's 2 or 3 that have never gone through that other process of being updated and had sealant put on them. So.
Response would be, I think we just need to think about the murals on a case-by-case basis. And my concern has always been, and you know this personally, I'd like to see more murals, even though we've had some loss of buildings based on eminent domain and all that. I think our children in that community need to see that art and some of that history. And it's nice because I think the murals tie the city together. Even though we have these massive amounts here, it was nice to be able to introduce and see a mural that's a little further south. So I would just say we need to just keep an open mind and just think about murals on a case-by-case basis. There was a gentleman, he's been a barber for like over 50 years here in the city, and he wanted a mural. He was really adamant about it and said, I'll, you know, donate my wall and my guys sit in there and talk about the community business. And so, and he's in his early 80s now. He's still real mobile, and I think I even referred him to you.
Yes.
See, I could get behind something like that more than a person that not anybody that I know of knows anything about that person.
Right. Yeah, so that's just my take on it. I don't want to say no to the murals.
Right.
We could continue to define who we are and our rich history, but I wouldn't just want to put a damper on it in case. But I don't want to be just inundated with it, and it needs to make sense and be valuable to our community.
Because I can't tell you how many comments I've heard about the little girl.
Oh, I know.
On the side of the building, but it has the lights and the trees. I can't tell you how many people have come up and just said, that is so totally awesome when you're driving, especially at night, and you're driving through the city. And I don't know how much that was spent on that, but it has had a very big impact on it, so.
Y'all be open to staff recommendations for mural requests. What I don't want is individuals to come forward to y'all for grants for murals, because then that kind of puts you in a weird position to say yes or no to certain things. But we would be glad to bring forward, you know, ideas and a little bit of breakout of the budget, and then y'all could decide if that was something you wanted to do or not.
Have you ever thought about putting it out to our community and just say, ask for input, and then at that point, bring it in? Well, I mean, but
take that as a promise that you're gonna do it.
But if we're putting up murals and we're not asking our community, I'm confused on why we're putting up murals. Because there are some murals that have gone up that I've kind of looked at and gone, yeah, I wouldn't have done that one. Because I don't know how it has ties to Terrell. But then I was surprised with the little girl, because when I first heard that one, I was like, well, what does that have to do with Terrell? But then the way it was put in and the stuff that's around it made it very much something I think people will look at and enjoy.
Case-by-case basis. But always open to staff recommendations.
Yeah, I think we need to kind of leave it like that too. I don't say no to community input, but I think when we keep it directed at city or a committee, you leave a lot of that extra, because everybody gets their feeling heard, that, you know. Yes. Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No.
I should have, no, I mean, the city should be asking if we do murals, does anybody have any?
And I mean, I do get
We talked to
input a
of
lot
people
about that.
murals.
But the other thing is, it has kind of been put on hold because I don't think we have an agreement with this artist, but I knew how much he had said he was going to charge to do that. And I didn't feel right going and possibly spending more than we had in that fund until I figured out for sure what direction we're gonna do with this. So, to Stephanie's point, you know, there's probably gonna be funding in there, but I have no way of knowing until, you know, we decide what direction to go with those other lots. And if you want to put, the maintenance and sealing of the other ones ahead of a new mural,
I
so.
would be genuinely curious, and Cynthia and Louise will be the ones to ask, what it costs to, what did they do? They kind of floated the side of their Griffith building?
Where the sunflower?
Nope.
No.
That one too, honestly.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about the one where the Terrell Food Hall is gonna be.
Uh-huh.
They smoothed it, they floated
Is
it.
it like stucco or something maybe?
Maybe, and then it just looks smooth and it looks new. And we've not committed to any long-term art project, but that feels like public space, even though it's a private building. And so even if we were, for now, to do that on the other two buildings and then maybe try your billboard canvas idea in front of it, but it looks bad right now.
And yes, and I will, and Raylan can tell me whether I'm right on this, but I feel like that building was in a lot better shape structurally, so.
The exterior walls
Had.
the biggest problem where I get heartburn with painting on Houston Smith's wall is we have had someone come in and, because I wanted to skim it, and that wall cannot take any additional weight.
Like structurally, they're afraid that so that's why I'm at a
so-
standstill of what to do, so.
So
It's in
even
y'all's court.
just skimming it, and we're also kind of on the same side with Clay Cactus too. That wall is really, really bad. So we were like, oh, like a billboard instead, yeah. So, and once you get into asking Houston, you know, well, can we help with your, listen, if anything ever happened to that building after the mural got put on, then we would also be liable, and it scares me a little bit.
You don't need to pay attention to, because the back of the Pena's building, the old AAA building, it fell down in the
Yeah.
trees, and that's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a little scary.
Back on the short-term high-impact options list, I've had a couple people want us to explore benches here and there downtown, a place for the husband to sit while the wife is shopping, kind of a thing.
Gotcha. So there's a blank page for y'all to throw out some ideas, and like I said, in June, we'll really spend some time talking through this. I really just kind of wanted to give y'all a workbook. The very last page of this just gives you your prior budgets, looking at 2024 and what was adopted, and just starting to think ahead about the 2025. And so we'll kind of go through the same process that we did last summer too. So my hope is that in June, we'll have the list that's currently here in the book. I'll go ahead and get some pricing for some of those pedestrian benches and options and stuff like that. But if y'all have anything that you want to start throwing my way that I can get some pricing on, I'll make sure that we have a good list coming into June's meeting so that we can kind of prioritize and start putting some money beside it. Okay?
Anything for executive session?
I do. So it will not take long.
Carlton, thank you for.
I guess I'm going to be Dr. Wood's designee.
Sure.
So, since I'm
Tell me when we're ready, Peyton. This time, we'll reconvene in a regular session and consider the following action. I'll entertain a motion to approve a construction loan or loans not to exceed $1 million, 50% of which, not to exceed $500,000, would be in the form of a forgivable note, terms as presented, which includes the requirement of a CO within 6 months of commencement date. All loan draws will be on a reimbursement basis where invoices have been provided. And the operating hours of the establishment should be at least 4 days a week, including Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. for not less than 80% of said days. And they must employ and maintain a minimum of 25 full-time equivalent employment positions. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Hillary. Is there a second? Thank you, Mary. Any further discussion? Hearing none, signify by saying aye, if you agree. No if you're opposed. And the ayes have it. Thank you. Any other business? Did you call in lunch? I'm kidding. All right.